mean, I agree. My emails are like pretty open. They're on camera.
I mean, they know it's controversial and you don't hate babies.
Yeah, thankfully.
Alright, so you ready to hear this joke? You're gonna love it. It's based on a true story, kind of. So, what?
Are you friends with? What's your true story?
Okay, so I was playing pickleball in Vancouver the other day, and for whatever reason, this like this this like little kid, this little boy, there's a public shower in the middle of like the park, like near like the pool and the volleyball courts and whatever, and so this kid was just showering like completely naked in like the middle of the public park, and so I was messaging people on Telegram and like not paying attention. And the way I hold my phone, like I hold it like kind of upright and like look at like tilt my head back because I want to protect my like vertebrae and whatnot. And so for like 45 seconds, I was just like staring at my phone on Telegram and like I said, like to prevent like this my vertebrae from getting all hunched over and my spine misaligned, I like hold my phone up basically, and so what it looked like in the park was like that I was like basically I was looking like right at the kid showering, but I was just staring at my phone, but like my phone was facing the kid, so like the entire park for like 45 seconds, it basically looks like I'm like straight up recording this fucking naked child just showering in the park in front of everyone when I wasn't. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I lost a good 45 seconds worth of footage. Don't record children showering.
Well, where was this kid's parents, and why weren't they having a vote?
I don't know. They just decided maybe they were European or something.
Okay, Zoo, what did you think of the joke?
Yo, Zoo, are you there? He's writing it down. What did you think?
He's got
delivery of my joke.
He's got flashcards.
What joke?
No pun intended.
What joke? What was the joke?
Story I just told. Did you hear it at all?
No, I wasn't listening.
Well, go rewind the stream. I'm not gonna redo it. But
what is it?
Zoo, you're not in a position where you're able to listen. If you're not in a position where you're able to listen to people, then go do something else. Your friend is coming over. When they're done, come back in here when you're inside and you can talk. But it's rude for Riser to go through a whole story under the assumption that you're listening to it, and then you're like, huh? Did you hear me?
You'll be happy to know that I just ordered Kanye West's shoes from like 2010.
You got Yeezys?
The Yeezy 350s.
That's not a bad investment.
No, because they're the most comfortable shoe I've ever worn.
You know what's a good investment right now?
What?
Pokemon cards?
Alright, well, shoes are a depreciating asset, and you need shoes that are comfortable. So not trying to make money on Yeezys.
You need Pokemon cards?
No.
Imagine you
The
go
time to buy Pokemon cards was in like the 90s. Now the cards in the 90s are like, they're valuable. You're not going to get that ROI with modern cards probably due to inflation.
Just wait for the day where they're releasing nuclear codes and you have to win a Pokemon card tournament and you don't have the right cards.
You're not proud that I bought Kanye West shoes? You trying to show me Pokemon cards?
One day they're going to release nuclear codes, and the only way to get the nuclear codes is to have a Pokemon card tournament.
Did you have a dream about this or something?
What?
Did you have a dream about this or something?
Yeah.
Okay, where are you, Zoo?
I'm in a shopping center.
And you just were like, hey, I'm going to tell these guys all this information on stuff?
Everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy. Everyone's looking at me crazy like I'm walking around saying all this stuff. They're looking at me crazy. I'm a competent member.
He's not himself right now. I don't know what I mean, he is, but not. He's off.
Yeah. If someone truly encountered world-shattering technology, we expect persistent, intense curiosity. So when that's missing, there are three main explanations. They're suppressing it, they're due to external or internal pressure, they're reframing it as ordinary within their context, or the claim itself is unreliable or exaggerated. You don't need to assume deception, but you also can't ignore that mismatch. A clean probabilistic way to think about it is let A equals person saw extraordinary non-human text, and B equals person shows little curiosity. We expect P parentheses B slash A equals low. Most people would be fascinated. So if we observe B, it weakens confidence in A, unless we have strong evidence for suppression, desensitization, or unusual personality traits. Bottom line, it's not impossible for someone to witness something extraordinary and seem indifferent, but indifference is statistically atypical for genuine transformative exposure. So when you see that pattern, the most rational stance is remain open, but update skepticism upward.
Okay.
See, to me, it just does not seem logical. I mean, I get that there's context supporting the contrary, but if you genuinely, like you, Rabbi, I mean, maybe you're biased or whatever, you already have a predisposition to being curious about UFO tech, but let's say you didn't, and you blank slate, and you're just a physicist dude, and you work in a secret desert underground hangar, and you literally see a piece of technology millions of light years beyond anything we have here. You're telling me that you would not be curious about who's behind that technology and everything related to that technology. You just examine it from like a purely scientific point of view.
No, I would be. No. I would be obsessed with it unless when I thought about it, it brought back bad memories, like I was cheated on or my life was threatened. If that happened, then I would do everything I could to suppress those memories.
I agree. I mean, as someone who's obsessed with like even just like the physics of it, you probably I don't know. I feel like there should just be a lot more curiosity.
It would be like I don't know if this is correct, but like imagine you were raped by a really hot chick, and everyone would be like, "Dude, that hot chick raped you. That was amazing." But you're like, "Yeah, but it's still a rape. I don't want to think about it. I just would rather suppress that information."
I guess, but I don't know.
It
Shouldn't he hate? He should hate physics more than he hates the UFOs. Then
No, because physics is everywhere, and you can't really compartmentalize it. Whenever you're looking at an object, you're thinking of what it's made of, and every time you see motion, what you're making calculations. You don't have to get into aliens. It's not. Let's say this. He did get into it a little bit, and every 5 years he would talk about it uh, on radio stations, and then um, eventually, like he would do Joe Rogan and do the movies and stuff. But and he did another movie as well. It's called S4. It's considered the worst movie ever made. It's like the Brendan Schaub special of movies. But here's what happened with that one. I've never seen it. He was like, they just basically stole my story and did not consult with me on it at all. And they didn't have a very big budget, so it didn't look very realistic. But apparently, it does have a cult following. So maybe one day we watch that one too.
yeah, no, I'm just saying he could direct his hate more on the government entities that are trying to sabotage his life or his wife, or take personal accountability for the way that he managed his relationship throughout this crazy journey instead of blaming something that's essentially an inanimate object for his troubles. But enough said. I don't want to beat, beat a dead horse. You can continue watching it. It's sharing the screen. There's just no way that you see it and you don't give a shit about aliens.
It's not that he didn't. Okay, look, let's talk about this for a second before we go into. I know we've been talking about it, but he, there isn't anything more. His story is the ultimate discussion of it, unless you really get into alien abduction cases, and those haven't been that well vetted until you get into the internet age, and that was another 10 or 15 years after the Bob Lazar story was took place. So it's not like today where you could be like, I'm gonna just watch a bunch of videos on this, and I'm gonna listen to a bunch of podcasts, and there's just not that much information on it. That's why it's the number one discussed topic for Joe Rogan, because the public demands more.
Very little credible information. Got few credible sources.
Exactly. And I've got to say that, like, it's one of the reasons, like, I can name alien abductees. I get people who come in here and talk to me about alien abductions. Do I have that much credibility, or do I believe them? I do, actually, but they their stories haven't gone through the vetting process.
Well, hold on. You showed me a video yesterday, 2 hours long, from the Disclosure Project with highly accredited individuals and academic people and highly educated people, pilots, military intel, all that.
That's correct.
Why wouldn't Bob Lazar be interested in those people's accounts?
It's an excellent question. Well, and another excellent question: why didn't they have Bob Lazar in their thing? Isn't that a good question as well?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they work together?
I mean, that one I would say like Bob Lazar just is really trying to keep a low profile, even though he still doesn't really do that. But he might be like, this is too pushing buttons a little too much.
Yeah, I think really, if his life,
He's already said everything or whatever.
that's true. He made a video in the 90s that was like, this is everything that I know. If anybody has any questions, just watch the video. And, um, I really think that there's a major issue that his life has been threatened. The more and more he talks about this, the chances, higher and higher chance that he could die.
I mean, yeah, but I'd still be secretly curious about it.
I get.
Maybe he doesn't seem that afraid from how he's talking on the podcast.
Well, he's an older man now, and he has less to lose than he did before. And he knows that, like going on Joe Rogan, everybody knows about it now. It's very similar to when he went on the local television. It was like to get the story out as opposed to just telling random people, and that made it like he always said the reason why I went to the news is that if I died, if they killed me, it would just reinforce what I say. Now we've learned that these clandestine organizations will still kill you, so that isn't like a perfect um, strategy, but it was his strategy. Look, if you watch enough Bob Lazar stuff, you can see he just doesn't like this stuff. And I get what you're saying. It is incredible technology. Okay, that's fine. Where do you find more information about it?
I mean, all those 400 witnesses that the other guy had.
Yeah, but none of those
Would be
people,
a nice place to start.
none of those people talk about.
You're saying that.
I mean, maybe I guess they do, but like none of them actually saw.
They're talking about infinite energy and all sorts of. One guy claims they cataloged aliens and crashed spaceships where he saw an alien.
That's true.
Willing to testify to Congress.
That's true. But why does Bob Lazar have to be a leader in this? He could just watch the Disclosure Project like anybody else, right?
No, this is just on information that Bob Lazar would at least probably want to inquire on. If he was curious about God, like, it's not just like the next iPhone, it's like literally like godly, like time altering technology.
That's true.
And even from a strictly physics perspective, he would want to be curious and explore anything he could get on if he was obsessed about physics, like he claims. Also, why is Joe Rogan not asking him? Like you said that it was like a soft disclosure or whatever, but you have like the federal government like releasing the UFO files and whatnot, and all this like UFO shit coming out on like the news publicly. Like, why is Joe Rogan not asking him what he thinks about that?
Well, if you heard, um, the Trump administration actually walked back and said they weren't gonna um, disclose all that stuff because their Republican donors or whatever, like the really evangelical Christian ones, consider aliens to be demons or something.
Okay. Well, there's still been like a lot of UFO stuff. Like, I remember us talking about it because it was big news at the time.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely.
But I mean, maybe just because Joe knows that Bob was like, oh, I don't actually care about UFOs. It's not the one person on Earth to actually see one and try and reverse engineer it.
I think the answer, and maybe it's not satisfactory to you, but Bob Lazar does not like this stuff. He just doesn't.
Okay. What are the odds that Bob Lazar is just a liar and an actor?
Less than 1%.
Okay. Well, no further questions from me unless you have any more things to say.
No, you're raising excellent points. I like the fact that Bob Lazar is not into aliens and does all that kind of stuff. Look, his friend, I guess, like you haven't done.
That is the strangest part about it.
Okay, but his friend,
It just seems.
his friend, John Lear, the guy with whom I had email correspondence, and I made, and whose day he said I made one day, was what you're talking about, and he took this information and he started going on the podcast circuit, or not the podcast circuit, the radio circuit. He would get interviewed all the time. He would go to all these lectures. He was all about this kind of stuff. And Bob Lazar would hear this from his friend, all of the inside stuff, and not know what to believe anyway. His friend did this. So when you're like, wouldn't he be really interested in this kind of stuff? He didn't know what to believe. He had a friend who was like super obsessed with this stuff, and who was on forums and was a retired man and had this amazing office full of just like all kinds of UFO articles and clippings and stuff. And anything that he wanted to know, he could go there to this guy's house and just be like, okay, tell me about Zeta Reticuli. And John Lee would tell him all about Zeta Reticuli, but can you really believe what it is?
Well, I mean, after working at an alien secret, like military alien workshop, maybe.
Where do you find more information? Where do you find? Let me just ask this question. Let me just ask this question. Let me ask this question. Where do you find more credible information that's published, that's available to the public easily about aliens?
Well, then you're talking about there just being limited data and not actually limited fascination by the topic.
Well, I think they're related. That if someone is fascinated by a subject, that's one thing. And Bob talks about like this was just incredible technology, and he had this word for it, like it was delicious, like it was like or something like that. It was delectable. It was like from a physicist standpoint, this is the coolest stuff ever. He loved that aspect of it. But where do you get more information that's verified about these aliens? Even the guy who
Why
said,
does it have to be verified?
well, that's the thing. Bob seemingly doesn't want to waste his time in the UFO circuit. And you've got to understand.
Does he know? Why wouldn't he give anyone the benefit of the doubt, like a abductee or someone
Bob,
who's maybe interacted with aliens in some other
when Bob Lazar did this,
way?
he had people coming to his house in the middle of the night, people calling him in the middle of the night, saying that God told them to come to him to tell him their UFO story. It became an annoyance.
Fair point.
And that's a
You
big.
should use an alias.
Yeah, no, he did. He did when he first went on the news. He used the name Barry, and that was the name of his like boss or partner at the UFO at S4. But I forgot about that aspect of it. He talks about during the 90s, and it's true. He would get, and John Lee would talk about people from all walks of life would drive 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours to go see him. He'd get people from Nova Scotia. He'd get people from Alaska who just became very motivated. I need to find Bob Lazar. They'd look up his address. They'd try to find out what they could about him. And then he'd get a knock at the door, and it just became an annoyance to him. I don't want to get into that. I said everything that I'm going to say about it. If you want to know anything more about it,
Did he care what they had to say though? It's not like more validation. There might be something to it.
none of them had any credibility in his opinion. And I understand he's going to get a lot of kooky people who drove 40 hours to go see him and knock on his door at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but like that speaker said, who was a doctor, was like, yeah, I might get manipulated by people faking blood that they're peeing blood or whatever, and so that they get painkillers for their kidney stones. But that doesn't mean that every single patient coming into the hospital is faking.
That's not Bob's role, though. He's not there to be the arbiter of what's a real UFO story and what's a fake UFO story. I get it. I would be annoyed as well. I would just say, I don't want to get into it anymore. I can't get anything credible. And plus, I've had, in the last month, 8 people come
Okay,
to.
what if someone had like some incredible material from a meteorite that was just unknown to?
Okay, what about it?
Wouldn't he give it? Wouldn't he be interested in that?
If somebody.
Let's say there was other credible information. Would Bob Lazar care then?
Perhaps. Did you just get kicked out of the call? Riser,
You know,
did you just get kicked out of the call, or was it just me?
no, you got kicked in.
Yeah, I did on one of my devices. Um. Okay, so what more comes out about it?
I was saying hypothetically, if there was other credible information, would Bob Lazar decide to give a shit then?
I think. I mean, like for instance, when they scientists were able to find Unun Pentium, also known as Moscovium, element 115. He was like, "Yeah, I told you so." But that was a big thing. That was new information that came about that reinforced what he said. But does that necessarily mean that like he has to go on the UFO circuit? You've got to understand and I'm sure you do. Imagine the people that you meet on the UFO circuit. They're kind of wild individuals.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just his personality or whatever.
Well, and you see that.
It'd be cooler if he didn't have that personality.
So, what do you think he should do? Like, have a website and stuff?
No, he should just be fascinated and
He is.
allured by.
He is fascinated. What more information is there, though?
Well, you're in the ufology community. What the fuck are they talking about? Just random Photoshop pictures of UFOs?
No, no,
There's no leaf government technology.
no. There is. There is definitely.
I mean, they're saying that the transistor was reverse engineered from aliens.
I am
Or
saying,
you told me that.
I told you that, yeah, and I agree with that.
So, isn't there a lot to explore in terms of alien technology that Balthazar could be investigating, or at least have some awareness of?
Is there a lot of? Yeah, there is. I think he's made it clear though that unless it can be verified, he doesn't want to be the researcher to do it.
All right. Well, shall we continue?
Oh, absolutely.
Needs to hear it.
Excellent question. And I think at the end of the day, I don't know. That's a question for Bob Lazar. But I'll defend this man and his story more than most anybody else I've ever heard, whose story I've ever heard, just because it's been consistent for so long. Um, I don't see it streaming.
Let me check. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it should work now.
Here, yes, sir. Watch, he answers all those questions directly.
Is he saying that the alien ship had halogen lights, or those were like planted there by some human?
No, he's saying that it was super dark in there, so they had to get halogen lights to turn stuff on or to be able to see stuff.
Yeah. Okay. They're saying in the 3D world that they're building on the computer that it wouldn't light up.
No, he's saying that they like made it in Blender. There's no external windows or anything to be able to see in there. And so
No, the filmmaker is saying that the remodel that they created in 3D, they had to turn off the lighting to see the interior.
agreed, because there's no lights in there. Like Bob Lazar is saying,
So
when I was in there, they had halogen lights so that we could see. But the filmmaker didn't have those halogen lights in there, so they had to turn up the lighting so that they could see what he was talking about.
in their 3D model.
Correct. Because it would be dark in there.
I mean, maybe. I don't know if I fully understand what exactly they're saying, but in a 3D model, like if you're in a 3D model on the inside of a hollow object, you're likely going to be able to see if you turn the lights on. But of course, there's variation of that, but it's not going to be just act like some alien dark spacecraft where you can't see when lights are on.
It's going to be up to the model. It's going to be based on the software they're using. If they're using really accurate software, especially in terms of lighting and such.
No, but there's no setting for the dark alien spacecraft material that doesn't absorb light.
Okay, it's like if we were modeling the inside of a semi-truck. We'd have to either turn up the lighting or whatever for the truck, for the like back part, or it would be dark in there.
Yeah, but he's saying they have to excessively turn up the light and like brightness by like 20x to be able to see anything in the simulated 3D model. Which I don't know. I don't think there's a material that's like alien dark spacecraft material in 3D.
That makes sense to me. There aren't any external lights.
I'm not sure if we're even talking about the same thing. I think we each have our own thing that we're picturing. But let me rewind it a little bit to
Please do. Please do, because it makes sense to me.
I don't think that if you're in a 3D model, you're going to have to, like, light is going to react like a alien spaceship interior.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Let me ask you
this.
Misunderstanding.
Let me ask you this, because it might be just the software you use. Let's say you are making a box with a small hole in a 3D environment. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't it going to be really dark inside the box?
Yeah.
And what they're saying is that it was so dark inside the box that they had to turn up the lighting by 20 times to be able to see what was going on inside the box.
No, the lights were on the inside of the ship.
No. Bob Lazar is saying that the ship was dark normally. They had to bring in external lights.
Inside. They're talking about the interior of the ship.
I know what they're talking about. They're saying that without any additional lights or anything inside the ship, it's very dark. Bob Lazar is saying that when he was there, they had to use halogen lights and they had extension cords all over the place to light up the inside. And as that other guy said, because it's like 52 feet in diameter, it's big. They needed extra lights.
I'm following that part.
Okay, so then the guy says that this was reinforced by when they were modeling the craft, they didn't have those extra lights in there, and if you wanted to see what was going on inside, it was very dark inside their model. So they had to turn up the lighting 20 times in their 3D model so that you could see what was going on inside.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but then wouldn't that mean that the alien spaceship wasn't like some super dark, hard to see thing if the 3D modeling software also required the light to be amplified?
Okay, can you repeat that for me?
I mean, wouldn't that mean that the spaceship interior isn't abnormally dark if the 3D modeling software light also needs to be amplified to illuminate
The spaceship,
dark space?
the spaceship is abnormally dark. It doesn't have any internal lights unless you brought in the halogen.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so what?
But if the 3D okay, but let me just rewatch it
Hold on.
again and I'll
Okay.
see.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
stop.
I don't know. It seemed like there was some disconnect between the interior of the spacecraft and a simulated 3D environment interior. If they're saying that it's one to one, exactly like a carbon copy, the physical spaceship is the exact same light refracting and sheen in the 3D model. But I guess they have really good software or something to model the spaceship. But I don't know. I got a little confused.
That's okay. Is it clear? Is it clear now or not?
I mean, I guess he's saying that they're Are they saying like they did the actual physical model of it?
I think then there's that as well. Yeah, they did.
That's my question. Thank you, John. Barry his like boss?
This is an excellent question. There's Dennis Mariani and then Barry. Hold on. What in what were the roles of Dennis Mariani and Barry to Bob Lazar at Area S4? Dennis Mariani and Barry Castillo, Lazar's work partner. So Barry was his partner. Dennis was their boss, as I understand. Hold on. Yeah, Dennis Mariani was the boss. So here we go. Dennis Mariani and Barry Castillo, Lazar's work partner, enforce strict compartmentalization, compartmentalization is a long sentence syllable, and security protocols at the S4 facility. Mariani, as Lazar's supervisor, mandated that Lazar carry a 22 caliber Smith and Wesson pistol at all times when off-site, and required him to register his existing firearms with the Las Vegas Metro Police to ensure legal compliance. Barry Castillo, acting as Lazar's designated work partner under a buddy system, enforced a rule that scientists could only communicate with their assigned partner and were prohibited from speaking to other groups without a formal written request approved by a supervisor. This isolation was part of the broader directive to prevent unauthorized information sharing, where any communication with other teams could with other teams had to be routed through Mariani. Additional rules and directives observed in S4. No unauthorized contact. Scientists were not allowed to touch or handle the alien craft without explicit permission. Lazar was reprimanded for touching a sphere that pushed his hand away. Compartmentalized, compartmentalized projects. Lazar worked exclusively on Project Galileo propulsion, while separate teams handled Project Sidekick, beam weapons, and Project Looking Glass. Time effects, with no crosstalk allowed. Security monitoring. Lazar signed agreements waiving constitutional rights and allowing phone monitoring, and his security clearance was revoked after he disclosed details of the program to the public. Does that answer your question?
Did is Barry, has he spoken publicly about this as well?
No.
Isn't I thought in that podcast just then they were talking about Barry's reaction to the VR world, or the different Barry.
No, Joe Rogan's talking about that.
No, I swear to God, they're just talking about what Barry, like they're just mentioned Barry.
Okay,
Just
go back.
For,
Just go back
his
to
reaction to the thing.
just. Oh, he wanted Barry's reaction, but he would love to know what it is.
Okay.
But watch it.
Let's see.
Let's see what it is. Oh, yeah. He was saying when if you mean that.
They're talking about the actual event.
Exactly. Exactly. And I may have been incorrect. He never explicitly says Barry would love to see what this is. But he did say that he thought Barry would come out and talk about it at one point. But that never happened.
Right. Okay. Got it. Sorry to interject again.
You're good.
Wouldn't Bob Lazar, since he loved physics and testing this stuff, want to like work up the ranks in this like thing?
Yeah, he did. But what ended up happening was they stopped calling him to come up to work. The reason why they stopped calling him to come up to work was because they were tapping his phone and they were finding out that his ex-wife was having an affair with her flight instructor. And so Bob Lazar became and they couldn't tell Bob Lazar what was going on because there's like a mental health aspect of it that they have to ensure that the person remains uh, calm and like doesn't freak out. And so they stopped calling him to come up. And because they did that, he got frustrated and then told his friends about it.
Right.
So,
And
so
has anyone ever interviewed the wife or the affair dude from the flight travel agency?
uh, not to my knowledge, but the wife is on camera when Bob Lazar takes them up to Area S4. I call it Area S4, but it's S4. It stands for Site 4, um, to be able to look at this stuff. But I think for her own safety and also the embarrassment, she never wanted to publicly disclose anything. But John Lear talks about it, and Gene Huff talks about it.
Why did he? Why does his wife cheat on him?
Okay, so when Bob was working
And
at
give me a concise answer.
Bob was working at the base, they would call him in the middle of the night at any time to and say you have 45 minutes to get to, at the time, McCarran Air Force or McCarran Airport, to fly on what are called Janet flights to Area 51. So he would say, "Honey, I've got to go to work," and she would say, "Go to work? What are you talking about? It's the middle of the night. Who goes to work at the middle of the night?" And she got suspicious that he was having an affair, and so she ended up having an affair of her own.
Why would the hours need to be so bizarre?
That's not quite
If
well known.
if they said like, oh, it's dusty in there, it's like casual, people don't really give a shit.
Yeah, let's look that one up. Yo, why did they have to
Like,
call
why
Bob
would they
at
not have this
in the middle of the
regular
night? Why did they have to call Bob Lazar in the middle of the night to go to work at Area S4? Why didn't he have like a more normal schedule? Like the other guys had a schedule. They'd work 2 weeks there and 1 week off. Why did Bob get called in the middle of the night?
And it's not like he was flying aircraft in the middle of the night either. We know that.
According to Bob Lazar's account, his work schedule at the secretive S-Force facility near Area 51 was not regular or predictable. Instead of a fixed rotation, the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, that some other personnel reportedly followed, it's 2 weeks on, 1 week off, I should say, that some personnel reportedly followed, Lazar claimed he was placed on an on-call basis. He stated that he would be contacted with little notice, sometimes in the evening or middle of the night, and instructed to report for duty. The irregular schedule allowed him to maintain his cover job at a Los Alamos photo lab during the day, as he explained in interviews and discussions, including the Joe Rogan Experience. The late-hour calls were part of a system designed to keep his dual roles compartmentalized. So here we go. Why Bob Lazar was called on an on-call basis. Lazar claimed that the on-call nature of the work was due to the highly sensitive and unpredictable nature of projects at S4. He was part of a small team reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology, specifically focusing on propulsion systems. Because breakthroughs or technical issues could arise unexpectedly, specialists like Lazar were needed only when their expertise was required. Oh, that makes sense. So basically, you would work there But if they didn't need you, then they just send you back. But if they had a breakthrough in the evening or at night or whatever, they're going to call you to work on it and use you for all the knowledge that you have. And then once you're done, they're going to send you back.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And then also, Lazar suggested that his clearance level and the secrecy protocols were so extreme that full time integration into the facility wasn't initially deemed necessary. He described signing agreements that allowed the government to monitor his phone and movements. So imagine you want to keep this project as much of a secret as possible. You only want the people working there when their knowledge is needed. You don't want them gaining knowledge from extra stuff because there's a better chance that they're going to be able to leak the information. So the idea is only have them there when they're needed. They're only needed when a breakthrough happens, but that breakthrough could happen round the clock. So they were on call for that. If that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but I mean, they could leak the information anyway that they already have. So, like, it seems like you're gonna limit the, like, if they're running tests and it's like,
But they wouldn't
I
have
don't
as
know,
much.
your job is to figure out the thing.
They
So
wouldn't have as much
go all out.
information. So if they had Bob Lazar there, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, he would get 80 hours generally of the work, whatever, 40 hours a week or whatever, of knowledge that's there. That's more of a risk because he's going to be able to see the flights. He's going to be able to learn about the Project Looking Glass, about the other project with the laser beam. He's going to learn more about that stuff, and you still don't trust him. So instead of having him there for long periods of time, because he's brand new and you don't yet trust him, only bring him there for maybe a day or two that you do need him so that he doesn't build up all this knowledge about it. Once you start to trust him over the course of months and years, then you can perhaps have him there for a long period of time, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. But until then, only have him there at a limited amount of time so that if something happens and he does leak something, he only has a few hours of knowledge of being there.
I mean, they like thoroughly vet people that they let into this super secret club who
But they did.
they wouldn't feel had to but that they wouldn't feel had to lie to their wife and potentially get caught and have this whole thing unraveled because there's no like lying, like there's all this lying going on.
Um, I mean, generally the people who work those kind of jobs just tell their spouse, "I can't tell you. I work for the government or I work for a contractor. That's that, and don't ask me
Yeah,
questions."
so why wouldn't they tell Bob to just say you just don't tell your spouse that you're just doing confidential work for the government.
That is what he told
You
her.
tell her anything.
That is what he told
Well,
her.
then,
But his wife
well, then
traced
she shouldn't. The wife just didn't believe him.
correct, and she maybe was just tempted to have an affair anyway, and so she justified it. Her name's Tracy, so Tracy felt, look, Bob's already leaving at weird hours of the night. This gives me an opportunity to cheat on him. I met this flight instructor. He's really good looking and he's cool and everything. I'm going to fuck this guy and have an affair on the side. If Bob's out doing whatever, nobody knows what he's doing, then why can't I do my own thing?
I guess sounds like the wife is more of the problem here than Bob.
Well, she was, but they can't bet every single person in your life. With him, with Bob Lazar, they vetted him. And then they asked him a lot of questions about his relationship with John Lear because they were like, John Lear, he's been a problem or whatever. He's a weird guy. What's the deal with him? And Bob was like, look, I I met him uh, basically through a friend, which is true, through Gene Huff, and I don't have a lot of connection to him. And they were desperate. If you learn how Bob Lazar got the job in the first place, he got the job through the arguably the most important person aside from uh, J. Robert Oppenheimer, whose name is um, Edward Teller. Like those two, J. Edward Oppenheimer and Edward Teller, were incredibly influential in the Manhattan Project, and it was Edward Teller who directly recommended Bob Lazar for the job, and they were desperate to be able to make advancements on this technology.
Word, alright. Yeah, it is coming back to me a little bit. Alright, let's finish it because it's getting late.
What is this bullshit? We're getting late. We didn't even watch like the whole thing.
Well, it's like 2 a.m. where normal people are sleeping.
Yeah,
Man, Bob is not making himself look too great for people sweating this.
Why do you think that?
I mean, he just went like, oh, the picture of the hanger, that was Google Earth. And I was like, no, dude, it was a real photo from the guy that we were FaceTiming when we were making the movie. And he's like, oh yeah. And then another thing, he was like, oh yeah, what flag? And then the producer guy was like, remember the American backwards flag thing? And he's like, oh yeah, that. Like he was not forgetting shit that happened.
Dog, he's drinking whiskey at the same time. Cut him some slack.
I know, I'm just saying it's not the best. You know, when you are forgetting your own story. But nevertheless. Why would Joe Rogan insist on ending the podcast?
He likes to keep these things to 3 hours.
Okay, fair enough.